Greetings. Hello and welcome back to the Indian Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Raj Balkaran, founder of the Indian Wisdom School. And you might be looking for living wisdom that you can apply to your life, perhaps encoded in story. If that's you, you're in the right place. Today's story features a student named Gālava. This student was a devoted pupil of the great sage Viśvāmitra. You might remember that name. Viśvāmitra, of course, was the once king engaged in a feud with sage Vasishta over the wish-fulfilling cow. He, being a rather greedy, egoistic king, desired to possess the cow, and he was not able to win, to conquer neither the cow nor Vasishta. He realized that spiritual power is greater than social power. And so after great tapasya, after great austerity, Viśvāmitra became a self-realized sage. So this is the sage who is the guru of Gālava. Okay? They came at the end of Gālava's training. He was set to graduate from his years and years of Vedic study. And what does this entail? Well, in traditional times, such teachings are dispensed free of charge. This occurs in society where the needs of teachers and sadhus are met. The society has an awareness of this, a consciousness to take care of those who have renounced vocation, renounced wealth in order to pursue the supreme, in order to pursue spirituality. And so that trope is not entirely commensurate with modern Western society, so innovations need to be made. But nevertheless, it's useful to know that in ancient India, and to a certain extent in even modern India, not so much in the diaspora, though there might be some exceptions, we see that householders, earners, take care of those who have renounced earning for the sake of learning or churning, spiritual burning, as it were. But in olden times, at least in the literary imaginary, students would give a dakshina, a ritual fee, a donation to their teacher, almost always at the request of their teacher. The teacher will request a particular dakshina, either because of a particular need, or if the teacher is, shall we say, more on the alchemical or tantric side, the request might be a response to the student's karmas or an opportunity to test in the middle of the student, test the worth of the student in a sense. Right? So Gālava is about to graduate. And so, of course, he was prepared to offer the dakshina, the customary ritual fee of his teacher's choosing. But this was, of course, being dispensed in compensation for years and years of unrelenting and compassionate tutelage and care. So Gālava asks Guru Viśvāmitra, what do you desire? And Viśvāmitra replied that he was content. He didn't desire anything. He wasn't looking for a ritual fee. He was good, thank you. But Gālava did not accept this response. He said, well, surely you must require something. I'm required to give you something. What is it that you want? Surely you want something. What is it that you want? Now, given that Viśvāmitra was once a mighty king who became a great sage by Shiva's grace, he was still prone at times to a bit of a royal temper, not nearly as much as Sage Durvasas, as we'll learn in a subsequent tale, who is ornery indeed. But nevertheless, there are vestiges of Rajas in Viśvāmitra the sage. So after Gālava's incessant prompting regarding a gift, Viśvāmitra sharply responds, just to shut him up, okay, since you insist on giving me a gift, then I request you pay me for your training with 800 horses, each as white as snow, each with one single black ear. Go and fetch me the gift you're so eager to give. Familiar with the sage's temper. Gālava backed away easily, backed out of the situation, paying his respects. Uh, now confounded as to how to procure the gift of his teacher's choosing, because now he's bound by this request. Now, it's interesting, right? This is a conversation I have with loved ones from time to time, whether I'm the recipient or the giver of the gift. Folks seem to have a really hard time understanding that the gift you're giving is not for you, it's for the person to whom you're giving it. And so you are wise to understand their needs and their wants. You might take a dear friend out to dinner. You might be a vegetarian, and they might quite enjoy steak. So what will you buy them? Tofu bits for dinner? Or you might be carnivorous, and your dear friend might be vegan. What will you buy them? Oh, it's your birthday. I have to get your birthday cake. Dude, I'm pre-diabetic. No. We have to get your birthday cake. It's your birthday. The person is just caught up in the trance of their conditioning. It's like they really want to give you a gift, and it's really more about them than you. Can you really empathize with the person and understand what their wishes are? That is the premise of a gift, right? Now, I think we can all see the misstep that Gālava made in egoistically insisting on giving a gift, because then it stopped being about Viśvāmitra. It was all about Gālava and his need to give a gift, right? So he realizes how foolish he had been to have demanded to give a gift. It was his ego that insisted upon it. And he understood why he received the punishment of this impossible task. Punishments are not vengeful, as the divine punishments or punishments from gurus are not vengeful, typically, as they are often construed in an Abrahamic context. They're pedagogic. They're not like an eye for an eye, or you need to be punished because you've been bad. They are, what can I teach you? A guru's punishment is always pedagogical. Otherwise, he's not exactly a guru. Right? The symbolism of the horses was not lost on him either. They represented the status of his training. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? The status of his training? What are you talking about? Well, they're all white. Think of white as purity, as emblematic of purity. Gālava is like this horse where he's pure, except one piece is black. One piece is yet sullied. His ear. He needs to work a little bit on his listening skills, right? He needs to listen a little more clearly and heed what is being said to him. He's not bowing before his guru out of fear or out of giving up his power, but if his guru is wise and spiritual, he's actually deferring in reverence to the divine presence. And what is the point of having access to the divine presence if we cannot receive it, relate to it, because we are caught up in ego? Yeah. So, anyways, he has an arduous task before him. The penniless Gālava, of course, he spent his entire life so far studying, could not possibly afford one single horse, much less 800 horses. So he thinks to himself, how can I solve this problem? A little bit of creativity, a little bit of grace. Let's see what we can do. It's a little bit of an adventure. Well, he knows that there's this king called Yayati, who's a great and generous king. So he pays a visit to the court of King Yayati. The king suggests that he approach his daughter Mādhavī. She had been granted a very unusual boon by her grandfather Shukra. Shukra is actually the planet Venus. Mādhavī is the granddaughter of Venus himself, Shukracharya. Shukracharya is the guru of the demons, actually. Brihaspati is the guru of the gods. That's Jupiter and Venus. Shukracharya is the Daityanam Paramam Guru. He's the supreme guru of the Daityas, of the Rakshasas, of the demons. Anyhow, there's much symbology there. Perhaps we'll flesh that out in another podcast. But, Mādhavī was given this really interesting boon. And the king was confident she would know the right course of action for Gālava. So Gālava was ushered into the princess's salon where he told her of his conundrum. Well, said Mādhavī, I strongly suspect our destinies are tied, O Brahmin. Perhaps you can offer my hand in marriage to a proper suitor in exchange for the horses you seek. I wish to come with you and see where fate takes us. Gālava, intrigued, as intrigued as he was confused by this rather incredible and perhaps slightly unconventional woman, he takes her up on his offer. Sure, what have I got to lose? Who could refuse help in a sticky situation? Yeah. So Gālava and Mādhavī make their way to the king of Kashi. Kashi is a beautiful name of what we now call Benares, which is an anglicization of Varanasi, the holy city inhabited for the last 3,000 years-ish, continuously on the banks of the Ganges of the Ganga. So they make their way to the king of Kashi, and he indeed has white horses with one black ear each. He has a number of them, indeed 200 such horses. He was a handsome and impressive man, and Mādhavī's presence was as irresistible. Irresistible, really, to most who feasted on her. The two were instantly attracted to each other. To Gālava's great surprise, Mādhavī asked the king, "Will you be willing to have me for a bride, but only for as long as it takes to produce a royal heir in exchange for 200 horses?" Gālava, the concern for Mādhavī's welfare, calls her aside and says, "Hey, you're going to be okay, with this king of Kashi? In those times, such action, such behavior, such agency on behalf of women was certainly typically not possible, or certainly not welcome. Yes, but the bold, charming, unique Mādhavī laughed in Gālava's face. "Oh, sweet Gālava, how innocent you are, but worry not for me. It is not my fate to endure the judgment of such important men, nor to be bothered by the burdens of motherhood." She went on to explain the nature of the boon that was granted by her grandfather Shukra, Venus. "I asked for the chance to traverse this world as a free spirit, to enjoy multiple partners and not have to be stuck raising children. Nothing short of a mystical boon can make that possible in this patriarchal world where women are trapped to do men's bidding at every turn. Lord Shukra granted my wish, blessing me to have partners in the four corners of the world without reproach. He also blessed me to bear a royal heir to each, but not to be fettered by raising them. I am blessed to remain pure in the eyes of petty men, to whom such matters are apparently so important. So I know, I can feel that this is the ripening of the boon. This year is my year with the king of Kashi. And I'm thinking this will be only the first leg of my adventures, of my journey. Come back once I've had my fill of him and produce his royal heir to be raised in his palace." Utterly lost for words, both by virtue of his gratitude and also by virtue of his astonishment at this arrangement, which was beyond reckoning as far as he could tell. Gālava simply submitted and agreed, is submitting to the magnificent Mādhavī. A year later, Gālava receives the radiant Mādhavī from the court of Kashi, and she'd had her fill. She looked lovely. She was ready to hit the road, so to speak, and they traveled to the court of Ayodhya. As fate would have it, the king there too was without an heir, and he had white horses, each with one black ear, but again, only 200 of them. He too was a dashing young man whom Mādhavī quickly took a liking to. So what does Mādhavī do? Mādhavī proposes the same. "Hey, how would you like to hang out with me and have a good time? And I can produce a royal heir for you. And in about a year or so, I've got to go, and you can raise the royal heir, and that'll be that. What do you say? You up for that?" And he's like, "Yeah, where do I sign?" "Sure." So the magnificent Mādhavī again spent a year with the king and produced an heir, and a year later, Gālava returns to receive her. There was a skip in her step, and she was more radiant than ever, having enjoyed the comforts, companionship, and pleasure of a second dashing king, but without being bound to motherhood or marriage. The two of them sought out the final king rumored to have such horses, the king of Bhoja. So, again, while at the king court of Bhoja, they were astonished to be met with a familiar situation. Maybe not so astonished. The king had 200 such horses, completely white horses with a single black ear, which he was more than happy to trade for a year with the delightful Mādhavī and a chance to procure a royal heir to his throne. So again, Gālava returns a year later to meet Mādhavī. She had enjoyed all that she had learned and experienced at the court of Bhoja. Gālava, however, was a little bit dejected. He still had only 600 horses. Now, compared to 0, that is a monumental feat to have 600 white horses with a single black ear. But that's still only 3/4 of the dakshina that his guru had requested. So, he shares with Mādhavī about his dejection and that all of this was for naught. And he understands that she enjoyed herself and he was glad to give her a chance to do that. And he was very, very grateful for the horses they got. But he wasn't sure how to proceed. And Mādhavī comes up with this idea. Worry not, gentle Gālava. I have heard of this guru of yours, of the sage of yours, and I know he has chosen a life of humble penance. But he too was once a great king. And one imagines he must therefore need an heir to install to his abdicated throne. She was intrigued by his stature and spiritual power and suggested they make the same bargain as they had 3 times before. Now I know what you meant, what you said the day we met, said Gālava to Mādhavī, that our destinies are tied, replies the beaming Gālava. You are as brilliant as you are beautiful, Lady Mādhavī. Viśvāmitra had asked for 800 horses, knowing full well, like he knew, he has precognition. He knows that only 600 such horses exist in creation. But he was utterly impressed at the perseverance of Gālava, and of course at the utter creativity of Mādhavī, that they procure 600 such horses. And he also was very happy that he now had a means of procuring an heir. So he accepts the offer as payment in full. The son of Viśvāmitra and Mādhavī was named Ashtaka, and he was installed as Viśvāmitra's royal heir. Having had their fill of royal dalliances, Mādhavī renounces the world and retires to the forest for a life of contemplation. By the power of Mādhavī's resourceful and resilient sacrifice, all 600 black ears, all of the 600 black ears of the horses turned white. So now all 600 horses were pure white. And this was an omen signaling that Gālava's training was complete, and he now had the capacity to hear and to heed his guru's words, and by extension, those of everyone to whom he was speaking. Just as the female counterparts, the male gods, are considered the Shakti, the power of that god, so too do we see Gālava's aims powered by the mighty Mādhavī. Now, this is a fascinating and unquestionably somewhat unconventional story. But what are we here for? Are you here to be bored? I think not. You're here to be entertained, intrigued, informed, perhaps even inspired. And to my mind, that story checks all of those boxes. I hope you've enjoyed the story a fraction as much as I've enjoyed telling it to you. And I hope that your ears were purified as you were hearing it. Feel free to come study with me. I would love for you to engage such teachings on a deeper level if that's your interest. IndianWisdomSchool.com. You can easily procure a monthly membership for a very reasonable cost and have access to the entire catalog of over 20 courses at the school. Also, feel free to reach out if I can be of service for one-on-one guidance or speaking or you name it. All right. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy your day. And keep contemplating both student-teacher relationships and creative solutions to difficult problems. Namaste.